Some of you may laugh. Of course, I wish some more would. But this happens that I have a pretty good voice. In fact, when I was born, my mother swore I'd be a singer. My father just swore.
Doodles Weaver. That's right, I said Doodles Weaver. Unorthodox, irregular, eccentric, unusual. For decades, Weaver turned the world of comedy on its ear with his far-out sense of humor. Even the guy's name was funny.
He was amazing in the way he could improvise. I mean, he played almost every instrument imaginable. He made these amazing sound effects. He could make a routine out of anything.
Veronica, you've lost weight.
But after 4 failed marriages and a battle with the bottle, the man of 1,000 laughs could barely crack a smile.
He was a nut. No, he was unbridled with his comedy, the things he would do to get a laugh. To get a laugh, he would do anything.
On this episode of Mysteries and Scandals, we'll explore the troubled life of jokester Doodles Weaver.
Comedy was something that he used to escape the pain of perhaps, you know, the unhappy parts of his childhood or his broken marriages.
He was a genius, and yet he had a private problem that never got out too much.
We'll also see how drink, drugs, and depression drove Doodles into despair.
He'd drink for a week, and then he would be so sick, because when he drank, we're not talking a few cocktails.
And we'll explore the events leading up to Weaver's tortured final days.
I don't think I was shocked. I was just sad, really sad. Because he was a lot of fun.
But the fun wouldn't last forever. I'm A.J. Benza. Join me for a look at the life of Doodles Weaver, screwball comedian or self-destructive clown.
January 15th, 1983. It had been 3 days since Win Weaver spoke with his father, funny man Doodles Weaver. The 71-year-old comic was in failing health, and the younger Weaver decided to check up on his old man.
He told me when we were growing up, he says, look, I'm not going to stick around to the point where you're going to be wheeling me around. So I was pretty much prepared in the back of my mind all my life that he was going to figure out a way to check out before that happened.
Biographer Jordan Young.
Doodles was getting more and more despondent over his ill health, and finally he just couldn't take it anymore. He took a .22 caliber pistol and shot himself in the heart.
I think he just gave up. And to tell you the truth, I was very sad when he died, but I was very relieved as well. And the last conversation we had, he's told me, he said, you know, I've done all I can do, and there's not much more I can do.
Doodles' death didn't make the cover of Variety, but the news echoed all over Hollywood. Winstead Sheffield Glendenning Dixon Weaver was born on May 11th, 1911 in Los Angeles to a prominent upper-class family.
His father was an industrialist, made most of his money in the roofing business. He was the youngest of 4 children.
Weaver's 4th wife, Rita Green Weaver.
Doodles got his nickname because when his mother and father would entertain, they'd put him up on the piano and they'd put an American flag in his little hand, and he'd shake the flag and sing, Yankee Doodle. That stuck with him.
With a name like Doodles, the kid was practically destined for a life in comedy. Young Doodles was a cut-up. While Mrs. Weaver found her son's antics amusing, Mr. Weaver wanted Doodles to be more studious, like his older brother, Pat.
Doodles went his own way. He really couldn't compete with Pat. So he just went off and sort of became this wild and crazy character.
Doodles began playing practical jokes while a student at Los Angeles High School. Longtime friend, Palmer Casey.
I think one of his greatest pranks was at L.A. High, where he went around morose for a couple of weeks, didn't speak to anyone.
He went around announcing that he was going to commit suicide, and then he threw this stuffed animal or this tackling dummy off the roof.
Everyone thought he had committed suicide because there was ketchup all over the dummy.
Well, I guess that's one way to get out of midterms. To make his father happy, 21-year-old Doodles entered prestigious Stanford University in 1932. The students and faculty weren't prepared for Doodles' over-the-top hijinks.
He would do all sorts of things at Stanford. There are legends that have sort of grown up around his days at Stanford.
Another great story was up the Beta House at Stanford, where he had a picture of Christ. The Doodles loved J.C.
Actor and comedian Billy Barty appeared with Doodles in the Spike Jones Band.
They were honoring stature, and they had it covered up, and everybody, all the professors, the school principals, whoever, were all there to celebrate this great momentum, and they undid the curtain to release the statue, and there was Doodles sitting completely naked there.
Doodles' niece, actress Sigourney Weaver.
There are so many stories about him, just, I mean, crazy things like paying his tuition in pennies, getting his diploma on roller skates. I mean, he was just such a prankster.
The fact of the matter is that most of them were not true. However, he took credit for most of them for many, many years.
Doodles was booted out of Stanford a couple of times, but Daddy's checkbook always managed to smooth things over. Though Weaver eventually earned a degree in humanities and science, he pursued a career in show business.
When he graduated from Stanford in 1937, he went to Hal Roach Studios, and he was telling Roach a story about his very first film appearance in which he played a kind of a goofy rodeo hick. And Roach thought he was funny, and so he gave him a contract, $250 a week. Bang, right like that. He put him in Topper, put him in a Laurel and Hardy picture called Swiss Miss.
Some guys have all the luck. Weaver was able to parlay his wacky brand of humor into a full-time job. The problem was that Doodles might have been a little too wacky. Coming up, booze, bigamy, and bullets. After barely graduating from Stanford University in 1936, comic Doodles Weaver went to Hollywood to make it in the movies. The 25-year-old was instantly snapped up by producer Hal Roach and appeared in a string of films that highlighted Weaver's goofy looks and offbeat sense of humor. Between takes, Doodles put together a rather unique solo act.
Radio personality Dr. Demento.
Doodles was one of the country's better known, we'd call him today a stand-up comedian. He performed in nightclubs all across the country.
Janella Weaver is Doodles' daughter.
His stand-up act would vary. Sometimes it was just jokes.
I think I'm in voice right now.
Most of the time, Doodle's stand-up act would be opening jokes, doing a couple of monologues, maybe a couple of song parodies.
Go ahead and listen, but not me. Okay, Brother Milt, shall we start? Oh, please lend your ears to my song. Now the notes that I hit are quite ghastly. I see that you're all growing pale as I run up and down the scale. You may think this is the end of my song. Well, it is.
What he'd do was he would pretend to be doing the call of a horse race, just like you might hear it on the track. And Equipoise pulls into the lead. And every time you go to a track, you will hear the call of the race. But he would do it with the names of the horses being funny names, and often names of people that he knew.
Safety pin has been scratched. And Feedlebomb. The horses are ready to go at the starting gate. The bell rings, and there they go! Hang over a second on the length by the rail, and Feedlebomb.
All his acts, stand-up, were very physical and putting props on and just making funny faces and making strange sounds.
In 1942, 31-year-old Doodles met, married, and divorced his first wife, Beverly Masterman. It seems Weaver was better at humor than he was at relationships. By 1946, the gifted jokester was over his wedding bell blues when he joined the Spike Jones Band and his City Slickers, a well-known comedy troupe. Joe Siracusa performed with Doodles in the band.
Spike started off during the war when people needed to laugh. They needed something to divert their attention from the war.
Band member and comedian Earl Bennett was also known as Sir Frederick Gass.
It was a revival of vaudeville. And I always say that the reason that the people enjoyed it and came to pay the money to see it was that right after a big war, a horrible war, there was a profound kind of depression and sadness, and the people needed the healing laughter that Spike provided.
Spike recognized talent, and there was a certain talent that Doodles had that could fit in with Spike Jones. The one-line bits, the one-line thing, the quick, short, you know, nothing stretched out too long. It had to be fast and furious and out.
But Doodles didn't like sharing the spotlight. he wanted all the applause for himself.
One night I finished my act and I came out to take a bow, and I looked across the stage and Doodles had stepped out from the wings over there, and he was taking a bow. He would do things like he'd come to me after a show and say, "Gas, I counted the laughs. You got 200 and so many laughs and I got 400, to show me that he was getting more laughs than I was.
Doodles had the audience in his corner, but he still craved the approval of his family. Brother Pat enjoyed a high-profile career in advertising. He eventually became president of NBC.
I imagine that created a certain amount of conflict in his family life because, you know, here was his brother being very successful, making tons of money, and here was Doodles being at first the class clown at Stanford and then going and being a comedian full-time.
1948 brought the beginning and the end of Doodles' second marriage to Evelyn Polson. When Weaver wasn't at the altar, he concentrated on making his act with the Spike Jones Band as outrageous as possible.
It was completely different. It was just fresh. It wasn't old vaudeville. It wasn't sleazy. He never took the dirty approach to making somebody laugh.
I think I'll sing a song, and I'm going to sing a song in a minor key.
He always did something with a twist that would use your mind. So it was almost an interactive comic. You know, he would make people feel that they were a part of the gag somehow.
But Doodles' antics got him into trouble with his boss on more than one occasion.
I think that my father and Spike were starting to get on each other's nerves. There's no doubt in my mind that Spike Jones felt that my father was a force to be reckoned with.
For a while, Jones let Doodles get away with breaking the rules, even Spike's rule about staying sober on the job.
Doodles insisted on still being able to drink, at least after the show. So Spike wanted Doodles badly enough so that he said, "Okay, I'll let you do that."
I think Doodles recognized that Spike Jones was a big step up for him. It was certainly a platform and a venue and this nationwide exposure that he got with Spike with the records. The records were huge hits. He was really the star comedian of the troupe.
Doodles picks up the story in this 1974 radio interview with Dr. Demento.
I was lucky because he was established by the time I arrived, and we took my material. Those are all my own numbers, and they just fitted in, and I made the arrangements with Spike so that my material fitted right in with him.
Doodles may have been the star of the show, but it was Jones who called the shots, and Spike's patience was wearing out. Straight ahead, Doodles drinks himself right out of a job. By 1949, 38-year-old entertainer Doodles Weaver was one of the most popular funny men in showbiz. The sad part was that Weaver mixed his comedy with a little too much liquor. You see, Doodles had a drinking problem that threatened to destroy both his private life and his career.
Doodles had gone somewhere, I believe it was Las Vegas. So Doodles the next morning awakens, he'd probably been imbibing the night before, and he'd called Andy, he said, "Who the hell is this woman who's lying next to me right now?" And he said, "Doodles, that's your wife. You married her last night."
Doodles married 23-year-old nightclub dancer Lois Frizzell in July 1949, but the marriage was annulled when Lois discovered Weaver's divorce from wife number 2 was never finalized. Doodles later joked that he'd only been sober for one of his 4 marriages.
Doodles would go off on binges, but he began to get a little bit more difficult to work with. For instance, when they did Spike's very first television show, the Colgate Comedy Hour, Doodles had a commercial. This was live TV, remember, 1951. They did this, it was an Ajax commercial, and he took the can, which he liberally sprinkled all over himself and everywhere, and it was not quite the way that it was rehearsed, and Spike was quite upset.
Horses, and there they go. It looks like beautiful Lois in front by a length. Greenbrier Creeper is second, Gentry's Ghost, and Long Underwear has fallen down behind. Float the dirt right down the drain.
We talked about Doodles' drinking evolving, you know, got a little heavier and a little heavier to where he got toward the end, and why Spike had to let him go is because he was undependable, unpredictable. Doodles was eaten up with alcoholism.
Doodles was canned from the Spike Jones Band in 1951. The same year, he launched the Doodles Weaver Show on NBC TV.
Thank you, everybody. Good evening tonight. Good evening. How are you this fine Saturday night? That's good. That's good.
But it lasted only 3 months. The 40-year-old comedian next joined the ensemble cast of the Horace Heights Show and soon fell in love again.
Doodles and I did meet in 1951. I was with the Horace Heidt Youth Opportunity Show. He said to me, "Someday I'm going to marry you." And I went, "Oh, Doodles, now you're old enough to be my father."
As fate would have it, the two met up 6 years later in 1957 and tied the knot. Rita Green gave up her career as an actress and raised two children while Doodles continued working.
I think it was a couple of years that Doodles Clubhouse was seen on TV. And then my father was involved with his own production called A Day with Doodles.
He played all the characters. If there was a lady in it, he would be the lady. If there's a grocery man, then he would be the grocery man.
But when the TV show got yanked, Doodles was out of work. Hopelessly stereotyped as the oddball funny man, Weaver became frustrated by the lack of roles offered him.
My father always was, you know, waiting for that phone to ring. When he would get a job, he would celebrate. Oh my God. And then when he'd lose a job or the part would be canceled or the thing would end up on the cutting room floor, then he'd be depressed and he'd go the other way. So it was always this constant battle.
He'd drink for a week, and then he would be so sick, because when he drank, we're not talking a few cocktails.
Although Doodles earned a reputation as a boozer, he managed to find some work in the movies.
Bit parts, walk-ons, just clerks, and maybe a guy who ran a flower stand. He was really struggling, but I think really he never really came back anywhere near what he had with Spike. So really the last 30 years of his career was a struggle for him.
I kept hoping, I kept thinking, I can help him. I can make him change. He'll get stronger. Everything's going to be okay. And he was the father of my two children. I wanted him to be part of their life when he was good, not when he was drinking, though.
Doodles and Rita divorced in 1968, but stayed friends. Unfortunately, the years of hitting the bottle left Weaver in bad shape, and he was plagued with serious heart problems.
When my father started to really, you know, disintegrate was probably about in the late 70s, and it was very tragic to watch that. It was very difficult for me because him and I were very close.
He'd call and say how terrible the pain was, the angina and he says, "Nothing's funny." Gas, he said, "Nothing's funny anymore." Well, this was not Doodles.
The fat lady was about to sing for Doodles Weaver. By 1981, the 70-year-old actor had almost given up, but not before one final hurrah. In 1981, 70-year-old Doodles Weaver was the featured performer at a benefit concert in Los Angeles. Weakened by heart disease and alcohol addiction, Doodles struggled through what would be his last professional appearance.
He came on stage to great applause from the sold-out crowd and performed Eleanor Rigby.
Eleanor Rigby picks up the mice in the Eleanor Rigby raises the price, chops up the ice. Eleanor Rigby looks through the light, and I'm trying to sing a song.
It was, I'm certain, not the sort of performance that he wished he could have given. He managed to get through the song.
The concert gave Doodles a chance to say hello and goodbye to his fans.
He was moved. I think he was in tears just to see this outpouring.
For the next 2 years, Weaver lived as a near recluse. Addicted to pills and liquor, the alien comic decided to cash in his chips. The laughter ended on January 12, 1983.
He was such a strong force that I knew that he had died. I woke up that morning with just a feeling. I called his house, and no answer, no answer. So 3 days go by, and we finally go, me and my friends, and we go there, and we look, and sure enough, you know, there he is. Now, he had taken his own life with a small caliber .22 pistol, and he had actually shot himself twice, not once, in the chest.
I came through the back door, and my son and my daughter were there, and then they told me what happened. It was a very, very shocking and upsetting time. Very bad.
No doubt that all comedians have got a darker side. Comedy was definitely therapy. Comedy was something that he used to escape, you know, the pain of perhaps, you know, the unhappy parts of his childhood or his broken marriages or whatever it was.
Funeral services for the 71-year-old Weaver were held at the famed Forest Lawn Cemetery.
They had one of the great egomaniacs of Hollywood do his eulogy. Rudy Vallée got up at the funeral and said, I only met Doodles once or twice. Then he ended up telling everyone about his great career, Rudy himself, not about Doodles.
Doodles was buried on Catalina Island off the coast of Los Angeles.
Doodles was, he was a great hero and an enemy at the same time. He was a hero because he made people laugh and enjoy themselves. He was his own worst enemy because he found life to be too rough.
He was amazing in the way he could improvise. He was really gifted, and he's quite a wonderful actor.
I think the world is better for Doodles having been here, because there's still a lot of people that love to tell the stories, and if they embellish on them and make them better than they really were, so what? He was a very funny man. He gave people a lot of laughter. He really walked to a different beat. He really did, and thank you, Doodles. I love him for it.
Doodles Weaver was the original wild and crazy guy, and for a brief time he made America smile. I'm A.J. Benza. Join me the next time we expose the tears behind the laughter on Mysteries and Scandals.
You know, seriously, folks, Doodles is a marvelous person, and he has a very wonderful side to him. Sometimes people think that comics can't be serious, and I want you to learn to love and to know Doodles just the way we do, because you just can't beat Doodles.